everyone, this is Bbeltdan and welcome back to Blender. Looking on the screen, you're seeing the original USS Enterprise NCC 1701 and you're thinking, well, Daniel, finally you're doing a video tutorial of how to build the Enterprise in Blender. Well, yes and no. I am doing a video. I am building the Enterprise, the original Enterprise in Blender. There are some tutorial aspects in it, but it's not a build through like with the D7, and it's not a tutorial or anything like that. This is something completely different because this is going to be the start of a project that is actually going to cause this virtual 3D environment burst out into the real world, and it's going to be doing it in a slightly different way. Now, I've mentioned before that I've had a 3D printer. I purchased it roughly about a year ago from when I'm filming this video, and I've been getting quite a bit of use out of it. But I've been looking at the thing and I've been looking at what I'm doing in here, and I'm thinking, it'd be good if I can combine these two together. I mean, I'm already building all this stuff, so why not go ahead and build it in real life using the 3D printer, get some use out of it. So that's kind of what I am doing here. But what I am doing instead, though, is basically, long story short, I'm building the Enterprise, but it's going to be in different parts. I mean, we got all these little parts that are separated here because what I am doing is, this might give you a bit of a clue if you look at this bridge module right here, is I'm going to build a completely disassembled, or a model that can be completely disassembled, and the parts can either be rearranged or swapped out depending on what you're wanting to do. I have always kind of liked the idea of kit bashing within the Star Trek universe. I know that some people don't really quite like it, think it's a bit tacky, but I have always kind of liked it. I've always kind of done it myself. I think my first example of this, of me doing something similar to this, was actually with artwork that I would sit there and, you know, very meticulously get images of starships offline, and I would, um, try to separate all the pieces into individual, you know, images that I can put into a folder, and I can go in and be like, all right, I want to, within Photoshop or MS Paint or what have you, like, okay, I want this ship to have the design, the nacelles of um, the nacelles of the Enterprise, but the saucer section of the Excelsior and roll bar of the Reliance. I'd go in through the folder and I would pick out these images that I've already went ahead and separated and start to build the ship. So, but anyways, long story short is I would use it and I would come up with, quickly throw it together and do original designs of ships, which is what I am doing at this very moment. Oops. Okay. So what I am doing here is I'm going through and I'm starting off with the original USS Enterprise. Great. Really, I forgot to disable something. Let's go back in edit mode. So what I'm doing is I'm starting off, this is going to be the base, and from here, I'm going to build out with this. But even with just this, I mean, we can configure it to where you could take the nacelles and place underneath here to get the Saladin class, and um, you know, or possibly remove this and connect this straight into this part of the ship, therefore reducing the neck completely, or, you know, variety of different type of things. But we'll get a little bit more into that as the episode goes. But before I go too deep into this, what I want to also do is kind of a test print, which I'll be doing here in just a minute when I get a decent amount of this ship finished, just so I could see kind of a proof in concept and also show y'all that this is exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm probably going to go ahead and stop modeling right here, go ahead and get a program or a 3D print started, and we'll see how that looks. So give me a few minutes. Alright everyone, and here we go. Here is that exact same model, or bits and pieces of that exact same model, after it has been printed out on my 3D printer and brought into the real world. Now these are just rough drafts. These aren't the finalized settings to get the most detailed prints that I can. I just, think of it as kind of a rough draft and a proof in concept. There were a lot of little anomalies that showed up. I don't know if you can see them in the print, so I don't know if it's because of the printer or if it's because of the model. I need to investigate that further. But once again, it kind of gives you the idea of what I'm wanting to do here. Plus it also allows me to tinker around with the plans on how I'm going to insert the pieces into each other. I've only printed out just a few of the pieces. That we got a somewhat complete saucer section. It's still very rough. There's no details in it. We have a neck piece here. One of the nacelles, once again rough. I'm going to have to go back to try to fix this, because as you can see, probably right there, there's a split seam there. But once again, proof of concept. I got the top dome where the bridge is at, and the bottom sensor, and the bottom sensor dome. So there's other parts of the model, but I didn't print those. Once again, just wanted to kind of just give y'all a rough idea of what we're wanting to do here. Now we have the tabs here, and if this was a complete model, if I've designed it properly and correctly, you should have the ability to where you can put this neck piece on there, and it snaps on, and it doesn't snap on too bad. I need to go and probably do some refining on it, either through the model itself or through sanding. But I snapped that on there, and I can snap this piece onto the top and take this piece, this dome. I've noticed that the hole is not quite centered, so I need to fix that in the model, but I can put the dome on the bottom, and you have the standard configuration of the Enterprise. The nacelle would be connected to the to the engineering section, to the warp pylon right about there, if I 3D printed those. But the idea is for me to where I can configure this and add in additional parts. There was another part that I printed out that was going to be a replacement for this, where it had a sensor dome, but that broke. But you'll still get the idea, because let's say if I wanted to go ahead and do kind of that one warp nacelle design, then I would have it to where there would be pegs or holes in here where I can take this and stick that in right there. And then I can go ahead and have the Hermes / Saladin class, with that dome that I was talking about at the bottom there. Or what I could do is take this bridge piece off here, put the dome at the bottom, like so, put the bridge on the top, and then have this up here, and
kind of have a almost a modification of the Kelvin class ship, minus the bottom engineering section right there. So, with this, so, once again, it's a proof of concept to where what I'm trying to do here, and to have this to where all these pieces can be swapped out to a certain degree. To what degree, I don't know right now. That's why I'm kind of experimenting here. So, I'm going to go back into Blender and see if I can figure out about what's all, you know, going on around here, with these print issues, and see if I can get a little bit of a better print on this before I go any further. So I'll be right back.
All right, everybody, back in Blender. I've been kind of testing around, toying around within Blender, and actually searching online for some tips and tricks that might help me try to identify what is going on with the model that's causing those errors while 3D printing. I found a couple of things. First off is, you know, when I was first building this, I knew that I couldn't just have a flat plane and 3D print it out, is that I needed to give each piece of this ship some definition, some body, some, you know, some, make it more solid, or else it just wouldn't 3D print properly. But I was trying to do that by hand, and by doing it by hand, I might have made a small um, couple of small errors that didn't really work out. But Blender does have some tools that are available to kind of, do that for you. One way that we could do it is do a Control F, and there is an option called Solidify. And if I do that, what it does is it extrudes all the faces that I need to have extruded, and to get this to make it more solid. Now, if you don't want to do that, there is another option, of which there is a modifier, and that is the solidify modifier that you can go in and set up. And from here, don't know if y'all could see it, but it's actually going ahead, and I put it in edit mode. Now you can see automatically this here is doing all of that work for me. So here I can go ahead and put in what settings I want. So this right here is now by default getting it a setting of 2 millimeters. So when I 3D print this, it's going to have a overall thickness of the model of 2 millimeters from outside faces to inside faces. And so this right here does it for you automatic. I mean, well, I say automatically, you still got to go and tell it about how thick you want everything to be. And it's not quite perfect. This was the method that I used, but I still had to go in to do some little bit of extra tweaking. Now, another option, and this was the option that in the end has become very important to me if I'm using Blender to create the models for 3D printing, is that there is indeed some 3D printing tools that is included in Blender. Go to File and User Preferences, and under Add-ons, scroll down right where it says Mesh. See that there's a 3D print toolbox. You just check that, and by clicking on this little part here, where also you have Tools, Create, Shading, and UVs, it creates a new tab for 3D printing. And here it has a bunch of tools that you can use to analyze and possibly even fix your model to get it to where it's 3D printable. And it does have an ability to make manifold. Manifold basically means it closes off the mesh. And if I click on that, it closes it off, as you can see right there. Now, for this particular type of ship or model, I didn't want to close it off like that, which is why I didn't use it, and I used just the solidify option, but it is an option that you can use. And there are a whole bunch of other little options right here that I recommend to do. If you do a check all, what it will do is it'll do a check and it'll go down here and it will tell you all the little errors that it's found inside the model, such as here it's showing that there's a non-manifold, and it'll select and it says, okay, well, these edges here are open. Therefore, this is a non-manifold here, so then I can just go in to make manifold. And if there were other little issues going about, it would go ahead and highlight those. I've already went ahead and fixed those in my current model. So I'll back up. Not you. There we go. I went ahead and I fixed that in a couple of the editions of the model, the upper and the lower part of the saucer section, the bridge section. I went ahead and did the full check, so I can't show you exactly how that works. Maybe an additional episode, but they are there and I highly recommend using it. So with all of those fixes done, let's go ahead and 3D print this. And I think I'm going to also scale it up a little bit just to see if that improves the sketch. So let's see how that looks.
Okay, and this is the newly printed version of the saucer section. I didn't print as much here because I wanted to do some refining more before I start to kind of really waste my filament here. One of the first things that I'm going to go ahead and do is I was trying to stick with ABS, because ABS you can solvent weld the pieces together, and also you can give it kind of an acetone bath to kind of really smooth this out. But with that printer being a cheap 3D printer that I got, there's some issues with it that I'm hoping to resolve, but until then I probably won't use ABS because there's a little bit of warping right here. I don't know if y'all can see that. There's a little bit of warping right there where it started lifting off the print bed and it started to shrink. I'm going to work and see if there's ways I could probably fix that. So I might start using PLA because it works a lot better. Now this here is slightly bigger than the original model. I mean, this was the original one, so I'm thinking I'm going to scale it up to about this size here. And this is probably going to be the size that I'll think about keeping it. Maybe a little bit bigger, but I don't want it too big. Y'all let me know what y'all would probably think. But it's the same principle. I've only printed out just the bottom, or the original bridge piece, which snaps on right there. So you have your standard configuration, and this poorly printed out piece here, which, because of a piece like this, makes me wonder if I want to go ahead and print it just a little bit bigger. We'll see how PLA works, but this is supposed to be the modification of the dome that you saw in before. That was on the Dreadnought class. So if I wanted to do a Dreadnought version, or just a slightly different, like an earlier version where it didn't have all these extra space here underneath the bridge, then I would just put this dome piece on there. So I can swap it out either or to the standard, or to the just the plain Jane bridge dome with single elevator or a single turbo lift. So I can swap that out and get the different configurations. So far so good. I mean, I think it kind of shows y'all what I'm wanting to do here, and I'm going to continue moving forward with this. I'm going to go ahead and try PLA, see how that works. Maybe print one out at the highest setting just to see about how smooth it gets, and see what I can do about smoothing that out, and see if the prints are a lot better. Maybe make it about 10% bigger also as well. So we'll see, but let's go ahead and go back into Blender and work a little bit more on some of the additional pieces, and we'll go from there.
And everybody, that is the latest project that I am going to be working on. So from this point on, I'm just going to be working on it whenever I get some little bit of free time here and there. But for the future, the first thing I'm going to do is try to finish this Enterprise, or, well, it's not going to actually be the Enterprise, but it's the Constellation class starship, and I'm going to try to get it all set up to where it's stock, but separable, where all the pieces are separated. The top, bridge section, the bottom dome section, the nacelles, the pylons, the body, the neck, and have to where that's all separated. I'm going to need to try to work out from there on exactly how I'm going to connect all of these. And I got a couple of ideas, because the way that I'm doing it, the peg system kind of works, but it might not necessarily be the best option. So I want to take a look at all my different options that I have available. After I get done with that, then the next step is that I'm going to be working on all the different little nuances that are very compatible with this particular type of ship. Such as, for example, I already have the idea that I'm going to make a different neck and pylon modules to where the body, I didn't want that, to where the body here, I go into right section here, where the body here is brought up closer to the saucer section and to the nacelles, and the nacelles are actually going to be brought out just a little bit wider. So I'm going to need to use a completely different neck and saucer module, or not saucer, pylon module. Then from there, I'm going to also try to start working on different variations for the nacelles, so we can swap out the nacelles, maybe different variations of the bridge modules, of the impulse engines, the back area. Then from there, I'll start trying to work on additional pieces that are going to be, or additional ships. All first starting off with ones from the same era here, which is the TOS era, which is some canon, some non-canon variations of different vessels, maybe like a spherical hull, or instead of a instead of the saucer hull, maybe flatter, all sorts of little different pieces and everything. Also, I'm going to be working on trying to come up with the best method of printing it out. I mean, as we talked about in this episode, there are issues that I'm experiencing with PLA, and some of those issues I'm hoping to get fixed. But other issues, though, I might have to probably look at using almost a completely different, where am I at? Almost using a completely different, lost my mind now. A different material altogether, as we talked about using ABS. So from that, I'm going to go ahead and call the episode quits right now, and we're going to start now. We're going to go start moving on working on the next portion. So just keep and watch for the next episode, and by then I should hopefully have a lot. Next episode, we're actually going to try to, once again, I'll have this all completely done, and then I can definitely show y'all exactly, how the pieces all snap and come apart and everything. And then from there, we'll take a closer look at alternative methods of connecting everything together, which is actually, now I'm thinking about, that's what I want to do first, because I don't want to print the whole ship out and then have to print it out again, because I come up with a better system of connecting everything. And there's even the possibility that I might be using a completely different 3D program besides Blender entirely. But until the next episode, this is Bbeltdan. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.